Hey everybody, this is the Mage of Ancients, and I'm back with the debut of my Cyber Angel Valkyrie deck profile. As you guys probably know by now, the Shadows in Valhalla set has finally released this past Friday, and the Valkyries are also out. People have been experimenting with trying to create the perfect Valkyrie OTK deck, but the problem with the Valkyries right now is that while the Valkyrie OTK is a nice approach for a win condition, they're just too inconsistent right now to actually reach the cards you want. And by now, I think the only way for you to actually reach the cards you want is by drawing into them. So that's why I'm bringing you guys this deck profile today. I actually came up with the idea to just use Benton's effect, that when Benton is tributed, that you can actually search for your Valkyries, because all the Valkyries that you have in your deck, except for a Fortune Chariot, which, by the way, I'm not running that in this deck, all the other Valkyries are actually light fairies, so you can actually search them off of Cyber Angel Benton. Of course, it's not the best deck in the world. It's not the best deck build of Valkyries in the world, so feel free to make any changes you guys would like to this deck. And of course, be sure to incorporate any ideas that I put into this deck profile into your own Valkyrie deck. So any suggestions or changes that you make to your Valkyrie deck, be sure to let me know down in the comments, and we can all share these ideas together. With that being said and done, let's get started with this Cyber Angel Valkyrie deck profile. So to start off with the ritual monsters, I run 3 copies of Cyber Angel Benton. If you guys don't know what this card does, basically if this card is tributed, then you can actually search for a light fairy from your deck to your hand. And yeah, I feel like that it's only fair that you run 3 copies of this. You have to max out on this so that way you can more likely get some searches going on. Then after that, I run 1 Cyber Angel Editon. If this card is tributed, then you can search for a ritual spell from your deck to your hand. Or if this card is tributed, then it will be another great way to power up your ritual monsters. Right now, Benton is 1800 and Editon is 1600. The other ritual monsters are just not that great, so having at least 1 Editon in this deck is just a good way to power up your ritual monsters. Then after that, my other one of ritual monsters are Dakini and Vrash. Dakini lets you recycle either a Cyber Angel ritual monster, I think. Yeah, a ritual monster or one Machine Angel ritual in your graveyard and then add it to your hand. So yeah, it's good for recycling, especially if you want to get at least 1 monster or spell in your hand so that you can discard it to activate Herald of Perfection's negation effect. And then Vrash is just a good way to just beat down your opponents. It has 3000 attack. And for the last of the ritual monsters, I run 2 copies of Herald of Perfection. Like I said, what you can do is that you can have cards in your hand that you can discard in order to activate Herald of Perfection's negation effect. And by the way, if I said that you can actually discard Machine Angel Ritual to activate Herald of Perfection's effect, I apologize for that. It's actually, you can only send 1 fairy type monster from your hand to your graveyard to activate Perfection's effect. So those are the ritual monsters, and it's a pretty solid lineup. Now let's get on to my favorite part of this deck profile, the Valkyries. So I run 3 copies of Dritte. I mean, of course, you got to run 3 copies of Dritte because you want to be able to search as many Valkyrie cards as possible. And then after that, 2 copies of Zweite. This card lets you destroy monsters on your opponent's field. And I also run 2 copies of Erste. This is a level 6, so that way you can tribute it in order to get out your Perfection, or maybe one of your Cyber Angel Bentons or your Editon, for example. That's why they're here. Also, this card has the effect where you can banish a monster from your opponent's graveyard, and this card's attack becomes equal to that banished monster. I'm also throwing in 1 Cyber Petite Angel because it lets you search out your Cyber Angel ritual monsters as well as your Machine Angel ritual spells. Also, if you combine Cyber Petite Angel with Benton or any other level 6 monster, then you get Dakini. Next, I run 3 copies of Cyber Tutuban. I just might cut this down to 2 just because, again, I want to avoid bricks. But you can special summon this card by tributing 1 warrior or fairy type monster in your hand or your field. So yeah, if you tribute your Benton off of Cyber Tutuban and you special summon your Tutuban, then you could search off of Benton. Next, I'm running the Incantations, 2 copies of Candle and 2 copies of Talismandra. Basically, what these 2 do is that you can reveal either a ritual monster or ritual spell depending on which card you're using. Then special summon either of the monsters from your hand and you special summon the other from your deck. And these cards have the effects where if you special summon either one of these from the deck, then you can search for a ritual monster or a ritual spell depending on which card you special summon from your deck. And the last monster card that I run is Archlord Christia. So what this does is that if you have exactly 4 fairy monsters in your graveyard, then you can special summon this. And basically, while it's on the field, neither player can special summon monsters. I'm actually thinking about switching this out for something called Vanity's Ruler, because I read that it's pretty much the same thing as Vanity's Fiend, where it cannot be special summoned, but Vanity's Ruler prevents your opponent from special summoning any monsters. This actually works in the same way. You contribute 2 monsters on your field, so you contribute summon your Christia or your Vanity's Ruler. However, people may prefer running Archlord Christia over Vanity's Ruler just because they want to save that normal summon for something else. But it's all up to you guys. If you guys want to go with Christia or if you guys want to go with Vanity's Ruler, then it really is up to you. And now for the spells, I run 2 copies of Pre-Prep of Rites because Herald of Perfection and Dawn of the Herald can be searched off of these. Unfortunately, not the Cyber Angel monsters. And I'm also maxing out on Preparation of Rites. This lets you search any level 7 or lower ritual monster from your deck to your hand. In this case, I want to be able to reach my Bentons as quickly as possible so that I can use them for however I see fit. Of course, you can also use this to search out your Herald or your Editon. Next, I run 2 copies of Machine Angel Ritual to get out my Cyber Angel Ritual monsters. And of course, since I'm running only 2 copies of Herald of Perfection, I decided to go with only 2 copies of Dawn of the Herald. What's interesting about this card is that when Herald of Perfection is ritual summoned, that you can actually banish this card from your graveyard so you can add back one of the monsters that you attributed for its ritual summon. So for the most part, what I would like to do is I would like to use Benton to ritual summon my Herald of Perfection. So what I do is that I activate Dawn of the Herald, then tribute my Benton, and then I can ritual summon my Herald of Perfection. And so what I do is that I can banish this from the graveyard, and I'm also going to be able to use Benton's effect to search my deck for a light fairy monster. So let's say Archlord Christia is the one that you're going to go for. So basically you can banish this, and you can also have a Christia that you can use later, and you can also use Benton to just recycle its tributing and searching effects. Next, I run 2 copies of Ritual Sanctuary along with 1 copy of Terraforming. Ritual Sanctuary is interesting too because you can just discard your spell cards. For example, you can discard Rite of the Valkyries, and you can also discard Machine Angel Ritual. So you can search for your ritual monsters and your other ritual spells. But my personal favorite effect of Ritual Sanctuary is that if you have Cyber Petite Angel, for example, in your graveyard, then you can shuffle spell cards from your graveyard back into your deck depending on the level of the monster you target in your graveyard. And in this case, if you want to get Cyber Petite Angel back onto the field from your graveyard, then you shuffle 2 spell cards from your graveyard back into your deck, and then you special summon your Cyber Petite Angel. And if you haven't used its searching effect yet, then you can actually use that. Then after that, I run 1 copy of Monster Reborn. And finally, to round out my spells, I run 2 copies of Rite of the Valkyries. And of course, 1 Mischief of the Time Goddess. Now, I apologize for the proxy here. I just couldn't get any copies for this deck profile. So anyway, I don't think I've said this before, but the main goal of this Cyber Angel Valkyrie build is not to OTK your opponent with. Instead, this build is actually made so that I can build up a consistent board, ending with a Herald and maybe a Vanity's Ruler or Archlord Christia. The main goal of this deck is just to prevent my opponent from doing anything, really. Or as people like to say, prevent your opponent from playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I run 2 copies of Ride of the Valkyries, and what that does is that you can special summon any number of Valkyrie monsters from your hand with different names. And they return to your deck at the end phase of the turn in which you activate this card. And what's really cool about Ride of the Valkyries is that they added this special effect where you can actually banish this card from your graveyard, and you can add Mischief of the Time Goddess from your deck to your hand. Mischief of the Time Goddess, in case you guys don't know, is a really cool card, in my personal opinion. So, neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation, and it cannot be activated as Chainlink 2 or higher. And so, at the end of the battle phase, if all your monsters that you control are Valkyrie monsters, then you can activate this card, and you can skip right ahead to your next battle phase, which is pretty cool. That's why people like to experiment with the Valkyrie OTK. But for this deck build, I figured that it's not really necessary. Like I said, I just want to be able to build a big board and make it hard for my opponent to get over. And now my extra deck. Personally, guys, I don't really see myself going into my extra deck as often, so I decided to just include some basic extra deck cards, so that way I could adjust to whatever situation I have during whatever duel that I have. So, one Hippo Shining In, or as I like to call it, my Hip Star. This card lets all light monsters on the field gain 500 attack and defense, and reduces all dark monsters on the field by the same amount. And if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, then I can target a light monster in my graveyard and add it to my hand. So that's pretty cool. Then after that, Decode Talker. I figured that I should include Decode Talker because it has this effect where you can target, actually you can tribute a monster this card points to, and if it happens to be a Benton, then you can trigger this effect to add a Light Fairy monster from your deck to your hand, like I've already said like a million times in this deck profile already. Then after that, I run Nightmares, Cerberus, Goblin, and Phoenix. This is a way for me to just be able to draw into more cards, and also I can normal summon with Goblin, and I can also pop my opponent's cards with Phoenix and Cerberus. If you guys want to include Unicorn in this extra deck, then you can do that if you want to. And the last link monster that I run is Underclock Taker. Just being able to extra link, so this card is pointing down, and then the Cerberus and the Phoenix point up, so that I can go into my main monster zones and just extra link with Goblin. Did I say extra link? I meant, you know, just co-link with my Goblin. And then finally for the Xyz monsters, like I said, there's nothing, this is more of a situational extra deck. So this is why I decided to include just any extra deck monsters that I could find. So first off, I run Beatrice. This is a way to get any card from my deck into my graveyard. Then Gauntlet Launcher to target and destroy an opponent's monster. And Dhampir Vampire Sheridan is an interesting one. So what this does is that you can actually target a monster your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. It doesn't destroy it, it doesn't banish it, it just sends it to the graveyard. And it has that second effect where if a monster actually is sent from the opponent's field to the graveyard, then what you can do is that you can special summon that monster back to your field instead. So those are my rank 6 Xyz monsters. If you guys have any other suggestions for other rank 6 Xyz monsters that I should include, then let me know down in the comments. So yeah, for the rank 4s, this is only for those occasions where I have 2 Valkyrie Drittes on the field, so that's why I included the rank 4s in this extra deck. So I run the Utopia family, Utopia, and then Prime, and then Lightning. And for the last of my rank 4s, I run Bujinte Tsukuyomi for draw power. And I also have Abyss Dweller because this is actually seeing a resurgence in this format right now because of the graveyard effects going on, because there's Danger, there's also Burning Abyss, and if Nightmares survive the next ban list, then this could actually be a good card to use. And finally, my last Xyz monster is Star Liege Paladynamo. This can actually zap your opponent's monster's attack to 0, and you can probably just go all out from there. So that's it for this deck profile, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this is not the best deck that I've ever built right now. It's just a fun deck idea that I just figured that I would try out the next time I go to locals. Of course, feel free to change the deck to however you like, and let me know what you guys changed so I can try and incorporate it into my next deck profile update. Again, thank you all so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to help support the channel, then be sure to hit that like button, then comment below with what other Yu-Gi-Oh videos you guys would like to see, and of course be sure to solemnly strike that subscribe button and also turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when I upload brand new Yu-Gi-Oh videos. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I'll see you next time.